Today, I'm gonna be painting this. Let's get it. This right here is a samurai inspired face mask that I found online. I will link. I'm not the designer. I didn't design this. I didn't make this. Someone else put in the time, the effort, the work to do this, and I will link them in the description below. Go take a look at their work. They've made similar designs to this, but I chose this one because this one just kind of like resonated with me. Truth be told, it was the first one I saw, so I picked it. But they have other designs that are just as good, if not better. So this guy is printed on an SLA 3D printer. It's printed in white, and I'm gonna paint it because as much as I like the white, it's a little too plain. If you look pretty closely, you can see that there is a nice seam running down the middle because my printer wasn't large enough to print this in one shot, so I had to, even if I turned it on the side, it wouldn't have done it. So I had to print it in two halves and then glue it together. One thing that you can do to get rid of these seam lines is when you glue them together, sprinkle a little bit of baking soda in it. That'll kind of cure. It'll cure pretty much instantly. And then you want to go ahead and sand it down. What I'm going to do with this is I kind of want to give it like a copper look, and I want to give it a bit of a patina to go with that. So I'm going to be painting this in acrylic because acrylic is kind of multi-purpose. It sticks to everything. It's water soluble. It's permanent when it dries. There will be a little bit of an issue of it kind of scratching off of the surface because the surface is non-porous, but that can be fixed just simply by going over it with some sandpaper and just kind of roughing up the surface so there's a little bit more tooth to it, just so it gives the paint something to kind of grab onto. But yeah, I originally was going to do this in silver and then decided that I like the brushed copper / rusty look a lot better, but I don't want that happen to the teeth. And then I'm going to go in and I'm going to pop some accents in places, so those I can deal with, but I don't want any of that base coat to go on the teeth. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mask the teeth off with some painter's tape. Now if you don't want to use painter's tape, you don't have to use painter's tape. You can use plain masking tape to do the same thing. I just use this because this is what I have on hand right now. You can use masking tape to do it. You can use packing tape to do it. I just happen to have this stuff on hand and it's worked really well for me. So you can use Scotch tape. You can, if you're really skilled about it, there's masking fluid that you can just paint on it if you don't really want to deal with having to touch up the little spots where your base coat is going to miss. But again, for the third time, this is what I have on hand, so this is what I'm going to use. I'm gonna hit it with some of this metallic rust, and it should work pretty well. But again, just to make sure that it sticks a little bit better, I'm just gonna go ahead and scuff it up. And this, you don't even have to be nice about it. Just get in there and like scuff spots up and shit. Just get in there, scuff it all up. All right. Make sure to get any of the dust off. All right. So now we have our teeth masked. We have the area out that we don't want to get any of our base coat on. Now it's time to go hit our base coat. As you can see, you know, still looking good. Still masked off here. So, excuse me. What we're going to do next is going to bust out the palette. Two options here. I kind of want to give this a bit of patina. I just want it to look aged and give it some life, a little bit of lift besides just this plain base coat. Like, it looks good as it is right now, but we can make this pop a little bit more. Okay, I've got this aquamarine, but I've also got this turquoise, and I'm not really feeling this turquoise because it's a little too light for my tastes, but it works. It's a little bit too light for my taste, but it works. And I kind of don't want to go too green on this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of this liquid aquamarine. Just make sure I shake it up so it's nice and mixed up, because metallic pigments tend to settle to the bottom, and you want to make sure that they're all mixed up before you go ahead and pour them out in your palette. And so I'm just going to go ahead and pour out a little bit of that on my palette. Just like that. Just sit there to the side. I'm looking at that, and then I'm just going to go ahead, I'm going to take a little bit of this turquoise, and I'm going to pop it on right there. Now, this, I feel like this is more of a turquoise green than a turquoise blue, but it's neither here nor there. You can do it either way. And so what I want to do with this next is I want to kind of highlight a lot of these raised areas. Not these raised areas, excuse me. I want to get into some of these sunken areas as best as I can. So what I'm going to do is, rather than wet my brush, you know, I have my water dish here, rather than wet my brush, I'm just going to take my brush dry, get it wet with the paint, and then just kind of go over it, kind of like that. And I'm not gonna pay too much attention about trying to get too detailed, because basically all I want to do is get the color on there. Alright? The thing with the patina is supposed to sit in certain spots, because when you look at something that's aged, that's old, you notice that it starts to age in some of the more sunken spots, and that's kind of what that's the kind of look that I'm going for here. Alright. Now, I can get a cloth, right? This is just some cloth, some dish rag I picked up from the Dollar Tree. Get it wet, and then just start to wipe off certain spots. So if I have too much green in certain places, I can just wipe it off, because the thing about a patina is uneven. And so if you want that organic look to look like, hey, this has been sitting around for a while, it's getting aged, you don't want it to be a uniform color all over the place. right? What you want to do is you want to get it into these little crevices, because anything, like if you look at anything that's like super old, anything that's like copper, right, that's been sitting around for a little while, you notice that the patina it shows up differently in different places, and so that's kind of the effect that I want here. And so I kind of like that where it is right now, you know, just enough to pop, but enough, you know, not too much. I'm gonna take it down a little bit, just because it feels a little weird in some spots. So let me go ahead and do that. I'm just gonna go ahead and add some more in places, just a little bit lighter, because the brush itself is dry. So I'm gonna let it be in certain spots. And so different levels here. You can notice that it's a lot deeper in some spots and not as in others. Okay. Fun fact about acrylics, you want to make sure to keep your brushes wet. You want to wash them out as quickly as possible, because acrylics drying in a brush, not good. Not good. Alright. And so, like, you know, if you wanted to stop there, you could stop there. Before, we've masked off the teeth, so we got to go in and we got to do something about that. So I'm going to go ahead and just peel off all this masking real quick. So now that we have that kind of patina going on there, I think what I want to do is I kind of want to touch this up a little bit. I want to come in here and make some of this a little bit brighter. So what I want to do is I'm going to go on top of that with a little bit of actual copper. And then what I really want to do is I really want to get in and I want to make these teeth that patina color. I know it's weird to kind of paint the whole thing and then do the patina there and then all of a sudden want to do the teeth that color. But my reasoning for it is simply this. I want the teeth to pop, and so I want them to just pop by themselves. And then I can always go in on top of that and add something to make that age a little bit, so I can have the turquoise itself be aged. So what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to take a little bit of copper, tiny bit, just going to kind of put it over here. And then I'm going to get another flat brush, tiny little flat brush, and I'm going to go in and get all these tiny little spaces in here, just like mostly down on the bottom lip where you can see it kind of in there, where it's not all covered by the little spaces in there, where it's not all covered by the original base coat. So I'm just going to go in there with a little bit of this copper. Again, I'm going to keep my brush dry just to kind of keep the strokes nice and lean. copper on top of the patina and the base coat, just to kind of give like little spots where it just kind of pops and shines. I don't know if that is picked up well on camera, just because. But basically highlights is what I wanted to give a lot of this. Just so there's places where it just pops really nicely, where it still has a little bit of that old luster, but you can see that it's been dulled by time and it's starting to age in certain spots. And that's kind of the look I'm going for with this. So now we jump into the teeth. So, what I'm going to do is, I was originally going to use some of this aquamarine, but then I decided that I like this turquoise a lot better. So, I'm going to go in on top of the teeth with the same turquoise, the same patina that I used to go over the rest of it. Thing about it is I'm getting it in some spots on top of the base coat. Doesn't matter. Same color. Who cares? Now it looks nice and bright, nice. You know, this is my first layer. This is my first base coat. The next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do a wash on top of it to kind of give it a little bit of that aged look. Now that we got that turquoise dried, I went ahead and put on a second coat. I'm gonna let that sit there and dry a little bit, and I kind of want to give it a little bit of, like I said before, I want to give it a bit of an aged look. So what I can do is, what I could have done is I could have just base coat the whole thing to make it this turquoise color. I didn't really want to do that, or this rust copperish color. I didn't really want to do that. I wanted this to be the highlight. I wanted the teeth to be the highlight. So what I'm going to do instead is, got my brush. My brush is a little wet. What I've got here is I've got some burnt umber and I've got some cold gray. Right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this burnt umber and I'm going to get as thin as possible with it. Again, my brush is a little wet because, you know, I just cleaned it. And then I'm just going to kind of do the same thing I did with the mask itself. I'm just going to go on top of it and just kind of throw down. Again, I'm going to go on top of that and just throw down on top of it. Weather and stuff like that, and yeah. So now the cool thing is, because it's wet and thin, I can just kind of use my dry brush to kind of essentially just scratch it all across the teeth. And now the reason why I'm using the burnt umber instead of this rust color is because the burnt umber is going to be flat. So it's not going to have that same metallic sheen that the rest of the base coat is going to have. The rest of the base coat isn't going to have is going to have that metallic sheen, A, because it's a metallic base coat, which you can see if you look at really closely. It's going to have kind of like a bit of a hammered metal look to it, but also because I brushed on top of it with a little bit of copper to kind of make it pop a little bit. The burnt umber is just a flat color, so it's just going to go directly on top of it, and it's not going to have like any kind of metallic sheen once it dries. Now this acrylic stuff is kind of a semi-gloss, kind of a bit of a satin finish, so it's going to have a little bit of a luster, but it's not going to be as exaggerated as somewhere else where you can see that this is very obviously trying to look metallic and this is just kind of old. Alright, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to do something similar with the cold gray, where I'm going to take the cold gray, and now it's very bright. Again, I'm going to take this and I'm going to not mix it into the turquoise because no one wants to do that. So I'm going to take a little bit of this, I'm going to come the other way, and then I'm going to go on top of that. Now, why am I using cold gray? I don't know, I just thought it would look cool. I thought it would be nice just to have kind of like a little bit of a grayish tinge to it. It's a very subtle look, and it's just nice because then I can get into other spaces. Yeah, I would say that's pretty much it where it's at right now. You know, I've got my base coat, my metallic, I've got the patina going on, I've got my teeth, which are kind of greenish. It's kind of like that same turquoise to match the patina I've got that turquoise to kind of match the patina that's going on with the rest of the mask. And then I've gone on top of it with a little bit of burnt umber to kind of age it with a little bit of cold gray just to kind of like step it down a little bit. And I mean, all in all, I think I'm pretty satisfied with this. So the next step after this would be to hit it with some kind of clear coat, whether it's like a matte finish or a satin finish, depending on what you want later, depending on what I want later. So that's going to be the next step, but I'm not going to do that right now. For right now, I'm just going to kind of leave this here, and that's it. Drop a comment down below. Let me know what you thought of the video. Feel free to like, share, subscribe. There will be more. Thanks.